Welcome everyone, happy Friday. My name is Julia Gurney. I'm the Associate Director for Visits and Events in the Office of Admissions at USM. Welcome to Experience USM Undeclared, where we will talk about navigating that process and how it's okay to be an undeclared student at USM. I am here with some of my esteemed colleagues from the university. But before we start with some introductions, I just wanted to go over a little bit about what you are currently in. We are in a Zoom webinar platform, and so we can neither hear nor see you. But the best way for you to communicate with us is through that Q&A box, which is right down below. Feel free to add your questions as the session goes on. We will open it up at the end for questions, but if you have questions about a specific thing, feel free to put those questions in there and so we can get them answered right away. And without any further delay, I'm going to hand it over to Kelsey, who will start our introductions and then jump into some information.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelsey Bannon. I'm an academic advisor here at USM, and I advise undeclared students, as well as students who are interested in the health realms. So like exercise science, health sciences, prospective nursing students, and some more. But yes, welcome to Experience USM. And I'll pass it off to Stacy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stacy Stewart. I'm one of the career advisors in the Career and Employment Hub. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to talk to you about being undeclared. I'm going to pass it off to the Director of Advising, Dr. Beth Higgins.
Hi, everybody. Very excited to be here with you today. And here to talk about being undeclared. And I advise undeclared students as well as political science and a variety of other majors as well. And I'll pass it over to Julia.
Excellent. So I think Kelsey is getting ready to share her screen, have some information to put up there, and we will get started.
Okay, so sharing my screen, thinking about this topic. Some of the questions I hear from students are like, what does being undeclared even mean? And is it okay? And what should I do if I don't have a major yet? And these are all great questions. Really, very simply, being undeclared just means that a student has not officially selected a college major yet. And if this is you, you are definitely not alone. About 13% or so of our incoming fall 2020 class came in as undeclared as well. And really, students will decide to start off college without a major for many reasons. Some students, they might have a variety of different interests and they need help narrowing down their options. And other students might honestly be unsure of their interests and they really need to take the time and they would love some guidance on how to learn more about themselves and also how to put that into the context of majors and then future careers. So the answer is yes, it is completely normal to start college undeclared, and it's actually a great idea, in my opinion, to kind of come in and intentionally explore your options. Because if we look at the nationwide numbers, studies show that around 75% of students end up changing their major at least once before graduation. So if you come in and really take your time and the energy to look at your options, it can benefit you as you could get further in your academic career. So really, being undeclared can and should be a very positive, fulfilling experience. And at USM, Academic and Career Advising has created a process or a program called Discovery. And it's meant to help you through your major exploration. And we do this through different activities, career assessments, and one-on-one conversations. And really, the goal is to support you as you're uncovering your interests, researching all the options available to you, and putting together your action plan to help solidify your ideas. And again, so we call this kind of collaboration the discovery process. And this is just a little snapshot of the discovery process. And it shows the collaboration between you as a student, as well as your academic advisors and career advisors. And what's really, really nice about this is that it's meant to be flexible and individualized for each student. And also having both academic advisors and career advisors on your team throughout this major exploration can be really helpful because we bring different expertise and kind of a different perspective to the table. So like in this example, for phase 1, my advisee might come to me and say that they're having doubts about the major that they entered college with, and they want to start looking into other options. And so we'll have a conversation about it, and we'll talk through how they came to this decision. And then I always love also kind of sharing some information about the different assessments they can take to help like jumpstart their major exploration process, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This can be a lot of fun. So after that initial conversation, the student would move on to phase 2. And this is a really fun part as well, because you get to meet with a career advisor, with someone who really can help you start interpreting the results from your assessments and help you start making the connection between what your interests are and what that might mean in terms of majors and careers. And really this phase could take one appointment, but more often it takes multiple, and it's this really nice deep conversation that can take time to help you kind of make those connections and help you learn more about what you want to follow up on. So if we go back to my example student, after they've taken those assessments and spent time with career advising, maybe they've narrowed it down to 2 potential majors. And that's when I can meet with them again and go over all that they've learned and talk with them about the specific academic requirements for those majors, and then come up with an action plan, a plan for next steps and to continue their learning. And really that's, again, going to be very individualized. So some students' next steps might mean taking a class the next semester within those majors of interest. And in others, it might mean meeting with a faculty member in the department to learn more about the classes and the field in general. It's really nice, it's very individualized, and that's what we would really focus on within that phase 3, is kind of creating those next step and synthesizing all of that they've learned. But this is just our snapshot of the discovery process and the discovery program. And now I'll hand it over to Stacy to talk more about what happens on the career side.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we get asked about what employers are looking for from new graduates. And so here are the top 10 attributes that employers really look for in those new graduates. And you'll notice that many of them are what we call transferable skills. These are referred to as soft skills. These are skills that people are learning in a variety of different settings, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's on the job, volunteering. And so part of what we want to have students recognize is that they're building these all through their courses and all through their USM experience and really honing in on them. And to assist students in developing these, and I'm going to ask Kelsey to go to the next slide. We've created a program called Get on Track, which is a multi-year college career program that guides students along a career trajectory while they're here at USM. And it has 4 pathways. And the first pathway that undeclared students might start with is the Discover, therefore the Discovery program with our advising friends. And during this phase is when students really take the time to discover and understand themselves in relation to their academic and career success. So this is where we see a lot of those career assessments taking place. and students taking courses that can help them understand who they are, what they believe in, what their interests are. And then from there, we really want students to go out and explore those interests and really begin to kind of narrow down their choices. And a lot of times we'll be sending students out on informational interviews to talk to people in the fields that they have an interest in. And so that when they go back and have that conversation with their advisor, they can say, oh, you know, I met with Stacy Stewart and she had me go meet with a few people. I really enjoyed, you know, this aspect. And so I think this major aligns with that. Can I take some courses to kind of see if it's a good fit? And then what we encourage students to do is then go out and have their own experiences. And this might be through an internship, might be through volunteering. It could just be finding a job that correlates with their interests. And then finally, students are in the launch phase where they're transitioning out of their undergraduate and into either possible employment or further schooling or even an alternate path. And you'll notice that the Get on Track program is cyclical. It doesn't have a beginning and a middle or an end. This is because students can actually jump in wherever they are in their exploration process. And one of the newest assessment tools that we have that we absolutely love is called Focus to Career. And within it, it has a variety of different assessments. It actually has 8 when I count them all up. It's interactive, it's self-guided, so students can jump in and take it. They can save where they are, jump back out, jump back in. And it has all of these different assessments that then can be combined so that you get a really good picture of all of your values, your skills, your personality interests, your work preferences, and then it actually aligns those interests with careers, but also the majors at USM that those careers align with. And I think a lot of times students discover that there isn't just one major that aligns with their career interests. There actually may be several. And then you get to choose which of those majors you most are interested in and really follow that passion. So Focus to Career is part of one of the assessments that we have students take because it has a little bit of everything inside of it. So one of the activities that we were hoping to have you complete today was just a mini kind of discovery of interests. And this is where we'd love for you to use the chat box. For those of you out there, if you could just, think about these 4 different categories. What are your dream jobs or dream careers? What are some things that you absolutely love to do? Are there places that you want to travel? And traveling doesn't mean has to be outside of the state that you live in. It could be just to places within your state, or it could be global. And we get a lot of questions about the nightmares. And the nightmares, most students have an idea of what they don't want to do. And sometimes they actually start there because they're very clear on the things they don't want in a future career or a future job. So I'd love for you to use the chat to maybe talk about some of the dream jobs that you're interested in, or even mention some of the nightmares that you definitely don't want. So I'll give you a few minutes.
You can definitely use the Q&A box too if you need
Oh,
to,
so,
because
yeah.
our chat is
That's right.
disabled
You
for
want to
webinar.
use the Q&A.
I could also talk about what my nightmare was
Mhm.
when I was in college. Sitting
Definitely.
at a desk all day. That's a job I did not want to do. I wanted a job that I obviously had things that I could actively do and engage. And in my normal non-COVID career, I am usually up and about and on campus and moving around. And and interacting with lots of different groups of people. So yeah.
Cool. Well, somebody put in doctor, and I would love to know what kind of doctor. Dream destination, Boston, Massachusetts, fabulous place to visit.
It is such a great city.
Yes. And I think, Julia, your nightmare is a common, it's a common theme. We see it a lot, or hear it. I hear it a lot. But do you sit at a desk for your job?
I'd say like 75% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some give and take, and obviously my job changes seasonally,
Right.
based off of, and that was the nice thing that I wanted, is that my job is very cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
So once I get sick of kind of one part of our admissions cycle, we move on to the next part. So yeah.
Awesome. So sometimes you have to make some compromises where you might sit at a desk some of the time, but it's only a small percentage, and then you get to go out. So we have some, nightmare, feeling unhappy. Well, I totally agree. It's not a place I like to be. So one of the things we would talk about are, what are the things that make you happy? Or maybe we need to talk more about what are the things that make you unhappy, so that we can stay away from those things. And then dream activity would be getting to work with animals. That was one of my dreams when I was a kiddo. I really wanted to work with gorillas. So
That would be so cool.
yeah, and scared of not being able to support myself. You are not alone in that feeling. And what we really want institutionally is for all students to graduate and move on to a successful position, or move on to higher education, or an alternative path, maybe like the Peace Corps, where they really are feeling good about themselves and making a difference, and being able to support themselves at the same time. This is great. Thanks everybody for answering.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, look, thank you.
All right, and I'll stop sharing this now so that everyone can see everything as well.
And Andy Osheroff joined us a little bit late, and Helen. Hi, Andy. Hi, Helen.
Welcome everyone. Awesome. So one of the most common questions that I get, and I can kind of kick off our question portion of this Experience USM event. And if you have any other further questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. But one of the questions that I always get from a lot of students and parents as well, particularly in the admissions process, is, what's that first step when it comes to being undeclared? And maybe we could talk a little bit more about the ACS process. Also talking a little bit about that in light of the situation that we're dealing with now. Will they still get the same kind of quality advising appointment, regardless of whether or not that's in person? That could be for Kelsey or Beth or Helen or whoever would love to answer that question.
Yeah, I can start, and then definitely Beth and Helen can jump in as well. But yeah, the first step is talking with your academic advisor at any point. I mean, it can be at their first ever appointment with us, which we call our advising and course selection appointment. And those are really unique to USM, because once you're admitted and commit to the university, you're able to meet with an academic advisor one-on-one for 90 minutes. And that's what that ACS appointment is. And it's really meant to welcome you to the university and orient you to what advising is, how do academics work here, and also kind of get you involved in other ways. So if you say, that you're undeclared and wanting to explore your major options, then we'll start the discovery process right then and there, and we'll start those conversations about your interests or the past classes you've loved. What are some of your dreams and nightmares? And then from there, we'll keep going. You'll be able to start right away meeting with career advising and continue meeting with advising to talk about what you're learning. as you're taking the assessments and meeting with a career advisor. So it can happen, yeah, right off the bat, but it can also happen, you know, in the middle of the semester. You know, actually today I had an appointment with a student who has declared as exercise science and now is thinking more going into the social sciences potentially. So he wanted to explore potentially social work, psychology, something that can give him more of the social sciences. So it can happen at any time.
Awesome. Awesome. So one question that we do get, and particularly I want you to answer, Kelsey, because we get it a lot in admissions. And I know you work with students who are health science focused. But, you know, say for instance, we have, you know, a student who didn't quite meet the admissions criteria for nursing. You know, what is the conversation with that student? I hate to call them wannabe nurses, but, you know, there are students who are, you know, set on pursuing nursing. You know, how do you, you know, what's that conversation with that student like?
Oh yes, I love meeting with prospective nursing students because most of the time, all of you are overachievers and you're very excited about the process and on top of everything. And if you're not, then you have me. I'm very detail oriented and I can help you with it. But really for prospective nursing students or anyone who's trying to get into the major of their choice, it's really about planning. So they would need to know exactly what are the requirements for me to get into my major. And then just continue and keep planning throughout that semester or year, however long that process is. And we work together very closely on understanding the requirements and keeping on track so that you can meet those requirements by that deadline. But yeah, it's a nice process, and especially for nursing, it's very clear and very well laid out in what the requirements are, and so it's kind of nice to follow that and just check off the boxes as you go throughout your semester. Mm-hmm.
So this could be for anybody in advising, but so say a student has applied as undeclared, but through the time period in which they are going through the admissions process, decide on USM, now they know. They've been exposed to something or have made a final decision as to, you know, what they want to study. What is the best course of action? And I know that there's kind of a soft handoff between admissions and advising when students come to the university. But is that something that is best that you wait for your ACS appointment or contact admissions? I can certainly jump in on that as well, but have you had that happen in ACS appointments where students are able to change their major? Love for someone from advising to answer that.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think my personal suggestion would be to call the advising office and let us know before your appointment, because we do try to pair you with someone who has an expertise in the majors that you're interested in. So if you do know for sure that you want engineering now or something, then you'll want to meet with someone who really knows that major very well in your ACS appointment. So it could be beneficial to you.
Excellent. And timeline. What is the timeline at USM? It varies from college to college, but is there a particular timeline to declare a major?
So I'll jump in on that
Yeah.
one. And the official policy says 60 credits. By the time a student gets to 60 credits, they need to have their declared major. But that always worries us in advising because, you know, people can light the candle and get the vision of what they might want to do, but we don't recommend that. We recommend really working through the discovery process. And the sooner we can help a student declare that major and define where they're going, the sooner we can create an entire pathway to graduation. And especially if you're interested in a major that has specific sequences that you need to take particular courses in, if you wait until the 60 credits, you could potentially be stretching out your date to graduation over a year or two, depending on what you're thinking about and committing to. So the important piece is right away, start working with your advisor, and we will help you through that process along with our colleagues in Career Hub.
Excellent. One of the questions that we often get is, how soon can I use career services? How soon can I get an internship? And for somebody who may not 100% know what they want to pursue, but know that they want these external experiences, Stacy or Andy, maybe we could talk about kind of that opportunity. I know you've had a lot of students who've done informational interviews to kind of figure out where they may be interested in. You know, love for you to kind of share some of those experiences with us.
Sure. So career services starts from the moment you start USM till after you graduate. So we work with alumni as well. So we follow, well, yeah, we follow you after you graduate. Internships can happen at any point in time. You'll find that a lot of internships happen over the summer, and that's a great time to do them because a lot of times you can work a full 40-hour week, and that's what the employer is looking for. But we do have internships that happen over the academic year. We host an internship within the Career Hub that is grant funded, and so we get to send students out during the academic year to explore interests. In addition to students doing informational interviews, students can do job shadows, and that's sometimes where a company invites a group of students to come and job shadow. We do that with Martins Point currently, and we're actually about to try our first virtual job shadow day with Bath Iron Works, which should be pretty interesting. In the past, we've had to limit the amount of students, and because it's virtual, we can take as many students as we want on this virtual job shadow day. So that's kind of exciting. And then we have the internships. And for some students, I had a student who wanted to clarify if being a surgeon was their they felt that that was what they wanted to do. So I was able to connect them with a partner at Maine Medical Center who then connected the student to a brain surgeon, and the student was invited into the operating room to actually watch the surgery take place. And they had a nurse there to help him understand what was going on, and he came back and he was like, I know exactly what I want to do, like I can see the path before me, and was super, super excited. And sometimes, a lot of times that's what happens, but sometimes students come back and they're like, this is not what I was really thought that it was. And then that's a great conversation as well to help them figure out, okay, what did you like about it? What didn't you like? And then working with advising, we can really help the student fine tune what their interests are and really look at what major is the most appropriate. Andy, you want to add anything?
Sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I was running a little bit late there. I think that those are some really great examples, Stacy, and I think maybe to drive it home a little bit, the example of the nursing student is maybe a perfect one. So for instance, let's say that one of you is really interested in nursing right now, but you realize when you start taking classes that you can't stand the sight of blood, which is a real example of a student that we worked with. So, you know, taking that knowledge and knowing that you're interested in the healthcare arena, we could, you know, set you up on a job shadow with Martins Point Healthcare to kind of learn about some of the other roles that are available in healthcare. And maybe after, you know, doing that, you realize that you're really interested in a certain subject matter like public health. And so you can work with our academic advisors to kind of select the major and build the courses there. And then we can work with you later on in your academic career to have an internship with a healthcare organization so you can get some more of that hands-on experience and really be prepared when you graduate to do something that you didn't think that you were going to do right when you started, but is a really fulfilling and meaningful career for you.
Excellent. Excellent. This has been great advice, hands down. I think all too often students are feeling more and more pressured. There are institutions that are across the country who don't even offer undeclared studies anymore. So I feel very proud and excited that students still have the opportunity to explore and have really awesome both sets of guidance from advising and also the Career Hub to kind of help them navigate through this process. I like to always wrap up conversations with pieces of advice. We are in a very unique time. And I would love any sort of a piece of advice that you would think would be helpful for students and families who are going through the application process in a unique time period. It's a very stressful process to begin with, never mind the added complexities of a global pandemic. But any sort of pieces of advice, maybe we could have a volunteer to start, so I don't put anybody on the spot. But yeah, I'd love to hear just kind of a piece of advice that you would have for any applicant or prospective student.
Go ahead, Helen.
Oh, okay. So hi, I'm Helen Gorgas Goulding. Sorry, I was a little late too. I work in academic advising. So I actually have a senior in high school right now. So we're going through the process of applying for schools. So so I can give you advice because my daughter probably wouldn't want me to give her advice. Be curious, I think. Be a curious learner. That's such a great trait, and it will bode you well as you go through college to be curious about new learning and new things and new opportunities. And I think the second, just from my work with students and my own daughter, is to try and stay organized with time management and make lists, make to-do lists. And I'm sure your parents are probably telling you this. Make to-do lists, use a planner, keep yourself, because there's so many sort of deadlines and timelines, and it continues in college too, in terms of your courses and assignments. And so I think just to structure in and write down on your planner when you have to do certain things is a really great tip.
I would just compliment what Helen is saying, is being curious and exploring some of those majors now. So you might not know what you want to do and study, but you might benefit from looking at all the majors that USM has to offer and kind of narrow it down so that when sometimes society is not so nice, and they're like, oh great, you're going to college, and the next question is, well, what are you going to major in? And it can be uncomfortable answering, well, I don't know, or I'm undeclared. But if you do a little pre-exploration before coming to school, you can say, well, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z. And then the next question they're going to ask you is, well, what are you going to do with that? And then having some ideas of maybe what you could do by looking on LinkedIn or other career websites. We have some information on our website of what you can do with certain careers. And then that will give you a little bit of information to provide folks that are asking questions and making you feel, as I talk with my students, that makes them feel a little bit more confident about answering that question instead of I don't know.
So curiosity came to my mind. As you can see, we want you to be curious. It's been reinforced 3 times now. But and also, I encourage you to ask questions. And there is never a wrong question to ask, because you never want to assume, and you want clarification. So in that curiosity, allow yourself to ask questions. Everybody at the university is happy to answer questions and to help clarify. So that would really be my big word of advice.
Yes, and I would say, dive right into it. Like if you are considering a few different options right now or have no clue what you would want to major in, then start off like right away meeting with us and talking with us about this. Sometimes I know it can bring up some feelings of, of being overwhelmed, not knowing what you want to do or having all these options and needing to look into them. But try to make it fun. It can be a really fun process, and it's always exciting, kind of just learning more about yourself. And there are so many more programs at schools than you could even imagine. So like looking through them and getting these exciting ideas about your future is a fun time.
Yeah, Julia, as you mentioned, this is a kind of tough and challenging time. We're in a pandemic. We're doing this virtually, and I think it's okay to kind of to name that and say that out loud. And there are going to be challenges, and I think what is helpful advice for me is to kind of think about the long-term goal of why you decided to make the decision to go to a university, and kind of begin your journey with that in mind. So you may change major, you may not know what it is that you want to study right now, but as long as you can kind of stay focused on that long-term goal, I think you'll be a successful student.
Excellent. I agree with all pieces of this advice, especially the question one. We are all here to help and assist students, whether you be prospective or enrolled or alumni of the university. So feel free to ask lots of questions. We're going to wrap up our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all my panelists, my colleagues at the University of Southern Maine. It's so nice to see other faces in the university, even in the virtual world. And so we will see you next time. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, thank you.